Alright. So Algebra 2, y'all's test isn't until Wednesday, so you guys have quite a bit more time than everybody else. But we're going to cover just a couple very short topics, so hopefully by then you'll have them down. Now, what happened? Somehow I ended with just 3 red pens, so I guess I'll be writing everything in red. I thought I had... Alright, well, whatever. So we're writing everything in red, and we've really only got a couple of lessons. It only covers 3 sections in your book. We've been spending, 3 weeks on it. If you just pay attention in class, you should be fine. This first thing that we're going to start with is the only difficult part. These are the rational inequalities. The idea is fairly simple, so rational inequalities, and we're going to start with a really simple example, and then I will give a slightly harder one. I am going to be doing this in class a lot, so I am going to go ahead and sort of fly through this. But first off, so here's an example, x plus 2 over x plus 4, or minus 4, is greater than 0. The idea is you have to take the factors of the top and the factors of the bottom and set them equal to 0. So x plus 2 equals 0, and x minus 4 equals 0. Solve each. X equals negative 2, and x equals 4. So these are your critical values, your important numbers. These are the things that we need to test. This is going to give us some intervals. So there are a couple of different ways to do this. You can either do it on a number line. So here's, negative 2, here's 4. Or you can make that chart where it goes, negative infinity, oh gosh, to negative 2, from negative 2 to 4, and then from 4 to infinity. And then you just test some values. So you test values anywhere in here. So basically any number smaller than negative 2. So I'm going to test like negative 10, okay? And I'm going to plug negative 10 back into this equation right here. So negative 10 plus 2 over negative 10 minus 4 is greater than 0. Negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. This is negative 14. Negative 8 over 14, negative 8 over negative 14 is a positive, what is that, 4/7. 4/7 is bigger than 0, so this checks out. So this would be a yes or a true. I think your book uses yes, I use true. And then that means that we're going to, have our critical value, and it is going to expand out this way. Then you test something in this interval, so something between negative 2 and 4. And I recommend 0, because 0, I guess it'd be closer over here. 0 is a nice easy number to test, so you test the same thing. So replace your x's, so 0 plus 2 over 0 minus 4 is greater than 0. 2 over negative 4 is a 2 over negative 4 is a negative 1/2, which is not greater than 0, so this doesn't work out, so it's not going to have a line in here. So this would be no or false. And then we'll go ahead and continue to test a number in here like 10. Okay, 10 plus 2 is 12, 10 minus 4 is 6, 12 over 6 is 2, 2 is greater than 0. So you do go ahead and put that line out that way. And you'll notice a pattern, like typically if this is going to be true and the middle is false, this one's going to be true as well. You should test it, but as a typical whole, that is how the pattern works out. If this middle part worked, typically these two would not work. It's just kind of how it works. So again, the idea is simple. Take the factors of the top, factors of the bottom, set them each equal to 0 to get your critical numbers. Put those numbers on your graph, and then just test a number. So any number in here, any number over here, and any number over here. And just find out whether or not it is true. Sorry, I should have written yes, true. Okay? Fairly simple idea. It does get a little bit more complex when there's stuff on the other side. Oh, actually, wait, no, I'm sorry. I said that I was going to make this a bonus, so it's on your test, but it is a bonus, so I've explained it during class. If you guys would like to ask during class, that's fine. I'm not going to go ahead and do the really complex one. I completely forgot that I said I would make this easy. I'm really giving you guys a chance. Like, if you just paid attention in class, now, not every test is going to be this way. This is the only test I'm ever going to do that's this easy. But, yeah, so I said I wouldn't even do the hard ones, so there you go. So that's rational inequalities. Now let's go ahead and move on. There are a couple of formulas that we talked about: distance, midpoint, and slope. And then we also have to do graphing with lines, intercepts, and all that jazz. Basically, pages 157 and 167. But let's talk about those formulas that you have to memorize. So distance is this formula right here, x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, and so this could happen, let me make that a little bigger. This can happen with any point, so I'm just going to give you 2 points and I'm going to ask for the distance. So for example, I'm going to ask you for the distance between -5, 1 and 10, 8. Something like that. So the distance between these 2 points, we're just going to plug them in. Remember, you just have to name your points. Let's name this one 0.1, that one 0.2. So this is going to be x1 and y1 because x always comes before y, happens in the alphabet too, and x2 and y2. Alright. So from here on, we're going to go ahead and just plug these in. So x2 is 10, and then there's a minus sign. x1 is -5. You'll notice there's a double negative there. Okay. Plus y2, which is going to be 8, minus y1, which is going to be just 1. From here, let's just do some math. 10 plus 5 is 15. 15 squared is, what is that, 225, I think? I'm going to grab a calculator just to be sure. It is 225, okay. Don't know how I almost forgot that, but that's okay. Calculators do not hurt. Feel free to use them. And then 8 minus 1 is 7. 7 squared is 49. We'll go ahead and add these two numbers together, so you'll get the square root of 274. And from here now, what you'll want to do is grab a calculator. Is probably going to be the easiest way. So every calculator works differently, and we've done this a couple of times. So give me one sec. Yeah. So the square root of 274 is 16.55. So this is roughly equal to 16.55. Okay. If you wanted to do this by hand, if you want to do this by hand, you could absolutely do the simplifying radicals that we've done before. Let's see, so this one would be like 2, let's see, 2, 3. Nope, that's not right. Sorry about that. 1, 3, 7. So 137. Actually, I think 137 is a prime number. Wow. Okay, well, this one's a bad example. It doesn't really simplify. So, oh well. That's fine. In any case, so you could just type this into a calculator and get that answer. If you want to put the radical answer, make sure to simplify your answer. And that's it for distance formula. So you just have to name your points. Name x1, y1, x2, y2, and plug them all in. Okay? Midpoint formula. Midpoint formula is actually kind of the easiest one of all of these. So let's use these same 2 points, okay? So I'm going to bring them back down. So -5, 1, and 10, 8. These are still going to be our 2 points down here. And we're going to do midpoint. Midpoint formula is as follows, and I'm going to shorten this to MP. So midpoint formula here is just going to be x1 plus x2. So add your x's and cut them in half. And then y1 plus y2. Again, add your y's and then cut them in half. So your x's are -5 and 10. -5 plus 10 is 5. So -5 plus 10. And then your y's are going to be 8 and 1. So 1 plus 8. -5 plus 10, I already said was 5. So this is going to be 5 over 2, or 5 halves. You could put this as a decimal. So if you wanted to put 2.5, that's fine too. And then 9 over 2. Just like that. Again, if you can simplify your fraction, please simplify them. These two are already simplified, so we'll just leave our answer like that. Alright, that's midpoint formula. Using these same 2 points, let's go ahead and find slope. Slope formula is as follows. y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Okay, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we're going to use these same 2 points. So, y2 is 8. y1 is 1 over x2, so x2 is 10, and then x1 is -5. remember you do have to keep that negative sign. So it's already x2 minus x1. x1 happens to be negative, so it's minus a negative. It happens, it's okay. 8 minus 1 is 7. 10 plus 5 is 15. And so your slope is, your slope is 7 over 15. So it would rise 7, so it would go up 7 spots, and go over 15, which is pretty far. So it would go all the way over, okay? So that's all the slope means. Those are those 3 formulas used. You really just have to name x1, so x1, y1, x2, y2, and then plug them in where they are. You do have to memorize these formulas. If you don't memorize these formulas, you're likely to get these wrong. Next thing was, during class, we made a distinction. Really simply, we made a distinction. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out for this one. There are 4 types of slopes. So on any xy plane, there are 4 kinds. Oh, wow. Alright, this last one's sloppy, but that's okay. So you're either going to have a rising or a positive slope, a falling or a negative slope. You're going to have a horizontal or zero slope. So if you see it horizontally like this is called a zero slope. And then if you see it vertically like this, I really wish I had another color for this. This is going to be an undefined slope. Okay? So those are the 4 types, and on your test you are going to have to identify, okay, well I'm going to give you one thing and you're going to have to identify, all right, well that's a positive, that's a negative, whatever it is. Okay? You just have to memorize those. Now, for our last lesson, we talked about 2 main formulas, point slope formula and slope intercept. So remember, slope intercept looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. Most people have that one memorized. And then point slope. This one's a little unusual, people. A lot of people don't seem to have this one memorized, even though they have slope intercept memorized. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And this formula, when you use it, will turn into that one eventually. It just takes some time. Okay? So there are going to be a couple of things that you have to do on your test. First off, I'm going to give you a problem where it just says, hey, graph using the intercepts. So I'm going to give you an example, like 3y plus x equals 6. We'll make it kind of easy. Okay, so to find your y-intercept, all you have to do is set x equal to 0. Okay, so to find your y-intercept, set x equal to 0. So you're just going to rewrite this problem, 3y plus, but not x, you're going to rewrite x as 0 equals 6. 3y plus 0 is nothing, so it doesn't really do anything, equals 6. And then how do we get rid of a number right next to a letter? We just divide. You'll end up with y equals 6 divided by 3 is 2. You're going to do the same thing for your x-intercept, except, so to find y-intercept, you set x equal to 0. To set x-intercept, you set y equal to 0. So we're just going to rewrite this problem, but instead of y, I'm going to write 0. And then 3 times 0 is just 0, so you just get x equals 6. Now that you have your 2 intercepts, you have to graph it. This is the easy part, so draw your graph. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to go ahead and draw our graph. Here's your graph. And remember, x is left and right, y is up and down. So x is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Draw a dot. And let's see, what was the other one? Sorry, y equals 2. So up 1, 2. Draw a dot. Connect your dots. That's all it is. And you're done. So that's graphing using intercepts. Graphing using intercepts. Now, I'm not always going to give you an equation. Sometimes I'm going to ask you something different. I'm going to say graph the line with the given slope passing through the given point. So I'm just going to give you this. Slope is 3 halves. And you know what? Let's make it a negative. Negative 3 halves. But I'm going to give you a point. So I'm going to give you point 1 is 1 comma 5. Okay? So the point is 1 comma 5. And I'm going to ask you, hey, graph the line of this equation, or graph the line with the given slope passing through the given point. So we draw a graph. And the first thing you got to do is plot your points. So 1, 5. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plot. Now, All we have to do is remember that the top one is the up and down. If it's a negative number, we go down. If it's a positive number, we go up. This is a negative number, so I'm going to go down 3. Down 1, 2, 3. But I'm also going to go over 2. 1, 2. Somewhere over here. So here's 1, here's 2. And then you draw your line. Draw your line. Okay? So if for whatever reason, like your graph looks really, really bad, just to make sure that you get full points, okay? So I have to be able to read your graph. If you don't trust your graph, then just mark your points. So for example, I know that that one's 1, 5. So what I'll do is I'll just go 1, 5. And then I know this one over here is 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2. So it's 3, 2. So just mark your points. Let me know what they are so that you can show that you know what you're doing. If your graph is pretty, so like if you know your graph is legible, which means I can read it, then you're fine. But if your graph looks like this, and you're like, this is 5, and this is 10, this is 5, and this is 10, and my points are here and here, I don't know what the heck these points are. Like this one is at 10, 11, 12, I'm not really sure. This one is at like 7 or something like that. Like if I have no idea how to read your graph, it's going to be wrong. So if you have to, just tell me what the points are. Tell me that this is 0, 11. Tell me that this is 7, 1. Like it doesn't even matter if it's right. If you tell me what the points are, you're fine. Okay? So just mark your points if I can't read it. Anyway, that's that. If you're given a point and a slope, just graph the point and then follow your slope directions. Down 3 over 2. If it was instead, 2/8, then it would be up 2 and over 8. That happens. All right, so that's how to graph those. Next, you're going to be given a random equation, and it's going to ask you to convert to slope-intercept form. Real simply, an equation, and it'll ask you to convert to slope-intercept form. So convert to slope-intercept. Remember, slope-intercept is that y equals mx plus b. So remember, hint, and this is not going to be on the test, but I'm writing it on here because these are notes. Y equals mx plus b. And they're going to give you a random formula like negative 6x plus 3y equals negative 11. Doesn't really matter what they give you, but remember, you need to get y all alone. So you start as far away from y as you can on the same side. So over here, y is over here, so ignore the negative 11. We're not doing anything with that. We need to get all this stuff away from the y. The 3, the plus sign, the 6x, the negative sign. We need to get rid of all this. First, let's get rid of the 6x. The opposite of negative 6x is plus 6x. Plus 6x. Negative 6x plus 6x cancels out. You're left with just 3y is equal to, and remember, we want it in this form, so you want to write your thing with the x first, whatever that might be, and then this number at the end. The last thing you have to do is get rid of that number next to the y, and all you have to do there is remember, anytime there's a number next to the letter we need, divide. And we can't leave our problem like this, so we can't leave it as y equals all that stuff. All I need you to do is separate it out. So write the first thing, put it over 3. Write the second thing, put it over 3. And 6 divided by 3, don't forget to simplify. Always simplify. 6 divided by 3 is just 2. So your problem looks like that. Okay, I know I went through that quickly, but all you're doing is solving for y. This is a pre-algebra technique. You've been able to solve for a letter for a long time. Make sure that you know how to solve for a letter. All right, and then I'm going to give you this. So find slope-intercept form using a given point and slope. So they're just going to give you a point like negative 2, 1, and they're going to say m equals 3. This one's a little bit different. They're not asking you to graph it. They're asking you to find slope-intercept. So find slope-intercept, which is again that y equals mx plus b. But the problem is that they don't give you slope and y-intercept. They give you slope and a random point. If they don't give you a y-intercept, what you have to do is use standard form. So use standard form. And then step 2 is going to be solve for y. But anyway, use standard form. Or I'm sorry, not standard form. Use point slope form. Which makes sense because they gave you a slope and they gave you a point. So we would use point slope form. Kind of makes sense, right? So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And you're just going to use that point and you're going to plug it in here. But you're going to plug it into the y1 and the x1. So y is 1. So y minus 1 equals m, or your slope is 3. X minus x1 is negative 2. From here on, we just simplify. Y minus 1 equals 3 times x plus 2. Okay. And then distribute your 3. So you have to multiply by both of those things. Y minus 1 equals 3x plus 6. So 3 times x, 3x. 3 times 2 is 6. And then add 1 to both sides. Y equals 3x plus 7. Sorry, that's off camera. Let me go ahead. There you go. It's a fairly simple idea. It doesn't really get much more complex than that. The numbers might get a little bit bigger, but they all kind of work the same way. Yeah, so that should be all good. So that's that one. And then the very, very last kind of problem that you have on your test is that they're asking you to find slope-intercept. So you'll notice that you often have to find slope-intercept. It's kind of just how it works. But it's using just 2 points. So they're just going to give you point 1 is, I don't know, 1 comma 3, and point 2 is going to be 5 comma 1. Doesn't really matter what points they give you, but here's the thing. So step 1, find slope. To find slope, you're going to use slope formula. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's just call these, that's point 1. So here's x1, y1. That's point 2. So let's call that x2, y2. So y2 is 1, y1 is 3, and x2 is 5, x1 is 1. Oh, sorry, is 1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2, and 5 minus 1 is 4, which will just give us a negative 1 over 2. At this point now, it's really easy because we can just go ahead and plug our slope back into our, what was I saying? Oh, that's right. So we just plug our slope right back in to our slope-intercept form, and then we'll have exactly what we were looking for. So let's go ahead and plug it in. So y minus, and then y1 is going to be, and you can pick either one of these points. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and use the first one because I already called them x1 and y1, so it makes my life easier. But it actually doesn't matter too much. Your slope is negative 1/2. Okay. And then x minus x1 in that first one is just going to be 1. Go ahead and distribute. So y minus 3 equals negative 1 over 2x, and then plus 1/2. Negative 1/2 times negative 1, so negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/2 times 1, anything times 1 is itself. Okay? And then let's just go ahead and add 3 to both sides. We get y is equal to negative 1 over 2x plus, what is that, 7 over 2? There you go. Alright. That's how to do it. If you had used the other point, so if you had used 5 comma 1, you would have ended up with the same answer, so you're fine. Alright, and that is all the kinds of problems that we're going to have up until this point, but there's something I have not covered in class yet. So there's one more thing that we haven't covered in class yet, but we will be covering it this week, so you should be fine for the test. I'll go ahead and include it on this video, that way we have it and I don't have to re-record. It's actually a fairly simple idea. It's the idea of parallel or perpendicular. There are a couple of rules that we have to memorize. Actually, I think I have a perfect lecture on this already. Okay, so in the description below, so we're going to talk about perpendicular versus parallel. So in the description of this video, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and timestamp. So timestamp below. I'll go ahead and timestamp the other video. So like I said, most of this material is Algebra 1. I've actually already taught this and already recorded this, I'm pretty sure, in an Algebra 1 video. So I'm going to timestamp that video and you guys can check back there. Alright, so best of luck. Hope you're studying, and I will see you guys this week. Ciao.